So what is the new role of HR was a question Manoj Khanna and Stephen Parry posed. Stephen Parry is a multi-award winning international leader with comprehensive experience and solid expertise in delivering global business transformation in telecommunications, IT, outsourcing, shared services, cloud services, IT service operational design for local government, financial, and legal services sectors. Manoj Khanna is an established and driven leader with an expansive knowledge of procedures and strategies that can help any business grow, recover, and succeed. He works with clients to provide executive level leadership and strategy. Welcome, Stephen. Welcome, Manoj.
Hello.
Very nice.
Thank you very much for having us.
Hello.
Hello. Manoj, you've managed two online conferences at the same time. Congrats. So you're here exactly on time.
Yes.
Good luck with your
multiple things happening today, but
yes, we're all used to that right now. Good luck with your presentations and see you soon with questions.
all right. So thank you first of all for the opportunity for us to present here. So we're talking today about bold visions and harsh realities, especially in the context of HR. And I'll just do the introduction. I think you already gave that. So Stephen and I are presenting this, but I'll let Stephen actually take the lead on this, and I will interject somewhere in between. So I think you already gave us our introduction. So Stephen, it's all yours.
Okay. The times, they are a-changing, said Bob Dylan in the 1960s. One thing's for sure, Bob Dylan is not a good organizational analysis, but his very famous song from the 60s could equally bear fruit with the type of environment that we're working at the moment. It is chaotic. It's forcing everybody to learn new skills. We are now looking at different types of organizations. We are being forced to think about how do we become adaptive. And this presentation has been put together to create a challenge to the HR community in terms of some of the issues that they are dealing with. A lot of HR people that I know are having to deal with organizations that are becoming business agility and a load of other change programs. And what I'm hoping to do in this presentation is to start thinking about what are the characteristics of the workforce in adaptive organizations that we need to be developing, and the new types of relationships between management and staff. So this is coming from a point of view of designing different types of organizations, but looking at it through the lens of the change in behavior, which I think HR are in an eminently great place to do something with. And if you've come across business agility and trying to understand all of this, this might give you some insight by looking at what does the change mean for management and staff. And then you can probably understand really where business agility is trying to drive it and where new adaptive organizations are going. So let me get straight into this, because most organizations are trying to do their best in being resilient, problem solving, and to navigate these issues all the time. But really we should be looking at change as now the norm and building that. What does that mean for our design of our organizations and the people that run them? What I will say about an adaptive organization, it is not the same as improving your existing way of working. It is literally it is a transformation, which means going beyond your current form into something different that is not improving what you have. Now, that can be done in stages because it's a people and workforce development process. But we need to think about how organizations lock on to the outside world and continue to drive new value into the customer's environment. So if I can bring up the next slide, please, because the purpose of the adaptive organization, Manoj, I think I need the next slide. I think thank you. All right. So the business adaptiveness is about continually driving value creation for customers, and customer becomes even more important in the future. And it's not just about customer engagement and all of that. That is the old way of thinking about it. We are talking here about having a deeper insight, and all our staff having deeper insight into what customers want, even understanding the purpose. If you're in a business-to-business situation, it's even more paramount. Okay, but it is a workforce capability, and it's a workforce change, and we need to think about new forms of creativity and collaboration and a different form of relationship with management. So next slide, please. Okay, if I just outlined this bold vision of a highly engaged, willing contribution of people where mid-managers and staff below are taking a lot more of the decision-making, leaving the executive and the senior management to really think about strategy, and letting the mid-managers start thinking about some structures and building, changing capability to deliver new services. That is the bold vision. But there are constraints. These are only 3 of them. And most organizations today are completely overburdened by all the changes from all the directions, be that regulation, new technology, digitization, a whole host of things. And you still have to do today's work and prepare for tomorrow. And everybody is tired. Everybody has too much work. So getting a hold of the work and finding out what work is important is really important in trying to build for tomorrow. So the next constraint that we talk about here is about transparency. And what I mean by transparency is the people at every part of the organization need to start developing a common view. What they do about that common view, it depends on their role, but there needs to be a common view. And transparency is basically 2 things. It's a conversation, and it's a process, and it's an ongoing activity. Talking about business issues with staff in a way that you never did before, and using staff to help sort out not just operational issues, but business issues, about new products and services. But they will be in a position to implement that and to execute, as we will show a little bit later, because we've built some of these organizations already. One of the other things that's important is that relationship about where decisions are made is further down, much more in the operational sense at the mid-managers, leaving some space free for them to grow into. That's very important. Leaving the senior and executive to concentrate on how we beat the pants off the competition, how do we get differentiation, and then how do we get that executed below by the mid-management and everybody else. So there's a very different relationship. Next slide, please. Okay, this is designed to provoke. You get the behavior you design for when you design the organization. And I'm going to characterize that by the traditional make and sell or industrial model, which most organizations are, to the adaptive organization in a moment. And the design principles are very different. But the behavior of staff is well within your ability to control. So why should you care? Because it's the quality of the design is equal to the quality of the working life of everybody and a long-term profitability of the business. Gone are the days where people just do their busy, busy, bang, bang work in their silos. So we're now creating a new possibility, a new ways of working. How you choose to compete has a big influence on the way you want to transform. If you're going to improve, then transformation is not needed. But in order to stay ahead of the game, transformation going beyond your current form, such as business agility and adaptability, that is now a must for those leading edge businesses. Okay, also, how you compete will determine how adaptive you need to be. So next slide, please. Okay, I'm going to come on to how do we find out how adaptive and what is the thinking and the mindset of our managers, our leaders, and our staff. And I'm talking about creating climate measures. Now, many people in HR are familiar with climate measures when you're looking at, what keeps people motivated, what people, job retention, all those other things. But we've taken a climate measure of what are the attributes of an adaptive business. And we've now created a diagnostic which we run online that'll tell us. Now, think about the work climate as something like the weather across Europe. That might be your whole organization. And there's some things that are common, but to get a handle on what the climate is, you have to go down to the different countries, and the climate is different. And then you might, so those might be business units. And then you might say, well, we'll go down to the city, and they may be just functions. And what we find now is we get this granularity from the business right down to the functions about how adaptive they are. And if they are already have the propensity to be adaptive, then we can leave them there and focus on those other areas. So let me show you how we do that. I'm going to take, to exaggerate this, there's the traditional industrial design and an adaptive design. And I'm going to look at 3 criteria. There's the leadership style. In the adaptive organization, managers are learning how to sense what's happening in the business, and they're learning to adapt what is coming at them. No longer do they have all the ideas, because in the complex world that we have, you can't have all the ideas, but we can figure them out together. Unlike the command and control. Now, these two have a different management focus on what we appraise people against, what measures we give them, and how we develop them. Because management focus in the adaptive organization is about creating new products, new ways of delivering, a whole set of ingenuity to create differentiation and long-term profitability, unlike the traditional, which is staff utilization, work intensification. But the competitive basis for both these is different. If you want to be a trusted advisor to your business to business or business to consumer, then that's a very different form of engagement with your customers, because you're bringing out new products and services based on the real customer needs that are brought to you by most of your staff. That information is out there and it is free, and we can bring that in. Unlike the other industrial, which is high volumes, low margins, etc. So we're going to come on to what I call the sense and adapt model, so I can explain how these climate measures work out. So if I put the model up in the middle for a second, it's a very simple diagram. This works either for a team or a whole business or even a whole value chain. It's about engaging and deeply understanding. So if we just raise up the 4 outer barriers for now, Manoj, just build the whole slide. Engaging and deeply understanding their customers, their purpose and what they're trying to do. Having methods to do that. Now, a lot of organizations only let selected people talk to customers, but you get a lot more ingenuity and inventiveness if more people talk to and understood your customer base. Learning and sharing what's happening in your customer base and the marketplace they're operating in, you bring that information in and you say, look, this is how well we're delivering. We need to fix these things. And the customer would like these other things. How do we do that? Where do we find the resources? Well, there's work that we don't need to do because of this overburden. We could get rid of that and redirect the work onto things that make value for customers. But then what does that mean by creating value for customers? It enables managers to make decisions about how to collaborate to serve the customers better, to making those choices. And then we can improve and adapt. That dynamic creates a work climate. And that is the thinking, feelings, and perceptions. They're the combined. And I'm going to show you some questions that we ask and some profiles of the two types of organization, the industrial model and the adaptive model. So what we have on engaging and understanding. Okay, we look at, okay, what is the customer-facing activity? How well do we understand customers? Who does that? Is it just a select few, or is it a much broader base of people? We're gathering information about the outside world, and we're sharing it within that team. Then we're learning and sharing about, are our services fit for purpose? Are there other services and products that we should be doing? We need to be sharing with other parts of the business, within the function, other functions, and with senior management. But to do that, more people need to understand how the organization itself is set up. And then leading and choosing, are they allowed to start working on these things, or are they completely constrained? So their performance management targets, how we do that, is really important. And the measurement system is really about enabling adaptability, not constraining, just making sure that you deliver how many widgets you can within a certain amount of time, and implementing better ideas for customers. And then we have, what is the employee influence on the processes, the other functions, and even the products and services? So I'm now going to show you, on top of this, the graph for an industrial model. So if you could have that up quite quickly. Right. Before I go to that, there is this blue line at the bottom, which is really important. Those climate features are things that in HR, you will understand the type of actions that need to go into that. And there are thousands of them. And part of the work that we do is to look at what are the most appropriate ways in each context to get those sorts of behaviors. But this blue line means it's integrated. We're having much more collaboration end to end and top to bottom. This now needs a lot more trust in the organization, both from managers to staff, and importantly, from staff to managers. Let's take a look at this climate measures. This means, this red means, can you go back to the red? The red means this is an industrial model. That means it's low, medium, or high. And we can see there's so many lows. This is not even a good mass production model. So you can imagine the types of issues that this business had. It's 2,000 people. They were trying to deliver high-end software and other service products. But you can see here, look, they were sharing information within their team. But when we looked at their organizational understanding, it was very low. Okay, they were sharing it across their function, but they weren't sharing it with other functions or even senior managers. So we had all this information about what was going on in the outside world, but they weren't acting. But look at this. Here we can see that they were responding to customer issues very strong, and they were trying to implement new services, etc., for the customer. But this has a paradox, because when we come to improving and adapting, they weren't improving and adapting. So we've got a dichotomy here. So how can we be, on the one hand, be doing things for customers and yet not improving and adapting? Well, in the industrial model, what we found by deep diving into this is most people were responding to customer problems with the existing products and services, and they were continually doing them, not removing those problems. They were institutionalized, and they were causing costs and all sorts of problems and issues. But they weren't actually looking at what made life better for their customers. So let's contrast this now with an adaptive organization. So that was before, this is after 18 months, okay? And we can see, all right, we can see here that customer intelligence gathering, what is going on in the outside world, we are getting this. And now we are looking at the customer-facing activity and gathering. We are interested in what's happening in the customer's world. We are looking at how our services work and what other services need to deliver. And we are sharing that information across senior management, other departments, and then collectively, through this collaboration, we were then deciding what we would do. We had to change some of the performance measurement because we were managing people on their creativity as well as compliance. Okay, and it's about responding to customer issue, but look at this. This is now improving and adapting, and instead of going to economies of scale, which the industrial model drives, this is going through economies of scope, of different nuances and add-on to your customer base. The employees are engaged, and you are starting to differentiate. And this creates long-term prosperity for the business, and it feeds back into your position in the marketplace. So if we just go back on now, I'm coming to the end here. The normal stats, the satisfaction on all those dimensions hit the roof, as we can see. So I'll go on to the last slide, and I'll just leave that there for you, I think. I think I'm just about done. Okay, thank you.